Long time no see. LEDs are a fun little addition to spice up your custom builds, or even add a little snazz to the ones that you just really like. They come in all shapes and sizes and types, which can be a bit confusing. So today, we're going to be custom painting, outfitting, and equipping a Konig wolf with one of the easiest and simple methods for achieving cockpit LEDs, while explaining the basics. Firstly, we're going to need to prepare the wolf, and for the sake of simplicity, we're using some magic to turn this kit into the ready state we need. Right, and with that done, let's talk about the LEDs for a moment. The best kind, in my opinion, are the type that don't require external power sources, and they come in the form of magnetron or button switches, which is the name search term for how you find these little suckers on the internet, specifically on AliExpress. They come as standalone little single lights, dual lights, multiple lights, changing color types that can be controlled via apps and remotes on your phone. Many different colors, and honestly they're the best bang for your buck, I feel. You can also get the type that we're going to be using today, and they're known as the magnetron switches with wires. And the benefits of this type are pretty huge. You can forego the Zoids core to store the activation switch and batteries in the Zoids core location. And this means you can easily open the chest to change batteries when it dies, or even remove them when you don't plan on using the lights for a while, to ensure that the batteries don't leach. This method also means that you don't need to worry about carrying the wires to the outside of the model, breaking the appearance, which that type does have some actual pros to it, but again, we're keeping to the simple LEDs today. Alternatively to this wired way that I'm going to be doing, you also have the basic button switch light, able to be placed in the cockpit in exchange of the pilot's seat. You just need to remember wherever you fix it within the cockpit that you have the battery's exit accessible, and that'll allow you to change it when it's dead or remove it again when you're not using it. But just note, they're not going to be fitting in smaller Zoids. This coils back around to the wired type, which can be ordered with varying lengths of wire and multiple lights on the same switch, up to I believe 5. This gives you the chance to place them in tighter fits or smaller Zoids, such as the Shadow Fox where you can't actually fit the button switch in the canopy. If you do this method, you'll want to pre-measure the distance between the cockpit and core location, giving you enough cable to reach the core cavity. And you also want to make sure that you've got a bit of extra so that there's enough play, meaning that when you pull the core out, you're not really pulling on the wires, you have enough room to comfortably change the batteries. Lastly, the method I personally like most at this point for the cockpit lens tints is just to raw spray clears over the top. Now, it's going to partially melt and dull the styrene and tint it, and I personally like it like this because it's going to dull down the appearance of the LEDs. And the good part about that is it'll give it more of an iris look to it, like an actual eye, not so much just a very bright window. But to each their own, and as shown by the Zoids at the start of this video, if you want them to look like that, except with a custom color on the canopy lens, i.e. using clear plastics, all you have to do is use a water-based varnish and apply it in a couple of coats first, before you spray the clear color. And what that'll do is prevent the plastic from melting when you apply the spray. Now I do have to state that you really do need to have a bit of a quick practice with some leftover clear sprue here, because if you don't do it correctly, you will melt through the water-based varnish. Right, build time. Firstly, I'm going to recommend that you focus exclusively on the head and neck areas of the kit above anything else. Take your time to familiarize yourself with the inner shapes and workings, meaning look at where you can weave wires through, places without movement or risk of the wires being pinched, as shown on the screen. And take your time to really study the insides here. Try to visualize where those wires will be when you move the model around, and make sure that it doesn't hamstring the mobility of the Zoid, i.e. if you're running it through the neck joint, or for example the ball socket with the Saber builds, make sure if you're going through the center of that area, that when you turn the head around or move it around, it's not going to be pinching or pulling the wires in any negative ways, but also doesn't restrict the Saber moving its head. How you want to port and make holes and feed the wires through the solids is by using a hand twist drill or a rechargeable drilling tool like the one that I'm using to bore the holes where you need them. And just note, if you get a buildup of plastic on a powered tool, the plastic on plastic friction can cause plastic to melt extremely fast, which can quickly destroy pieces in fractions of a second. So unless you're experienced in using plastic to melt the plastic on your drill bit, clear it often and again, take your time. It isn't a race. Porting and boring the holes for your wires, make sure you've got enough room for the LED head or heads to get through comfortably. This means a bit bigger than you would actually need. Say if the LED head and cable are 1mm round, aim for about 1.5. Now, the basic principles that I've mentioned here are how you put LEDs throughout the entire Zoid, so you can feed them any way you really want. You can go searchlights on your guns, you can do lights in your tail, I don't know, put them wherever you feel really. It's just on a bigger scale than what I've demonstrated here. All you need to do is just remember, look at the inside of the pieces, not the outside, and figure out where those wires are going to be when you put pieces together. Do they fit comfortably? Do they interrupt any of the build's properties, such as, are they going to get pinched and stop pieces comfortably joining together? And the one golden thing you need to remember is, when you're working with LEDs that are somewhat far away from the Zoids core, if that's what you're going to use as your center point, you need to work from the furthest point. So if you've got LEDs on a back-mounted gun, you start by building the guns first with the LEDs in them, and then you slowly work your way towards the point where the power is. Before we move on, some more advice and tips are, don't be afraid to ask, but the general rule of thumb is check the voltage. If the LEDs are 3 volt, stay within the voltage, and to go a little further, make sure you don't overload the batteries with too many lights. I personally like working with 3 volt CR927 button batteries because they're small, cheap and easy to work with, and fit in all sorts of places. As for a final note, there's no soldering options in this video. They'll more than likely be included in the pans video because that's where soldering is used, and it's a more advanced and potentially dangerous route. If you're looking for any of the links to the shown tools or items that I've used in this video or mentioned, they are listed down below in the description box along with the recipes for the colours. And for now, I'm going to finish this doggo off. So thanks for watching and best of luck making your models light up. Enjoy the rest of the video, or until next time, peace. Ultimately, the best part about these LEDs, when you do it like this, and you have a core area that's really easy to get to, you can typically stick a magnet up to the chest, and it activates like that.